here. J.R. Shepard dives down to the inside, trying to see if he's able to get a little bit of that tack that Brandon Proudfoot has been getting up at the front of the field. 10 laps to go here at Port Royal.
Yeah, definitely not making a huge ground here on Brian. Brian's able to maintain that gap.
It's Big Justin Morton back into second with J.R. Shepard somehow taking over the lead. I have no idea.
This guy, just see Scott kind of using up all that momentum. Got to enter the corner wide. I expected him to kind of cut back low. See lap car down on the inside. George overshoots the corner. Scott puts that car just where he needs to on the middle. It's going to be a drag race through the kink. Thomas George gets loose. Scott Eckridge has the opportunity to come home with a win right now. Side-by-side drag race.
Oh, wow.
Scott Eckridge, 5/1000ths of a second.
We continue our trek across the heartland and find ourselves here in the shade of the Gateway Arch in beautiful St. Louis, Missouri at Worldwide Technology Raceway, or as it is more commonly known, Gateway. And we are ready to unleash the raw horsepower that are the Silver Crowns on this 1.25-mile circuit. Welcome, everyone, to the National Sprint Car Trail presented by the Bootleg Racing League. My name is DJ Clark, joined here in the commentary booth by Kenny Kibbe, with our director Ryan Seneker behind the scenes and our producer Lowell Jewell helping to put everything on today. And Kenny, we were talking a little bit before this broadcast, but this combination, Silver Crowns on Gateway, a little bit of a match made in heaven.
Yeah, I mean, this Gateway really is a place where the Silver Crown cars can show their true speed potential, a possible 170 miles an hour down the stretch for these little roller skate race cars. But tonight, 85-degree weather, 76% humidity, partly cloudy tonight. The temperature's relatively cool. Expect a decent amount of grip, but with these cars having about 800 horsepower and only 1,600 pounds are these vehicles. You drive with the right foot, and this place especially is going to require some finesse, relatively abrasive. And you see on the track map there, one corner is a lot tighter than the other corner. So you're going to have to see two different driving styles and approaches to this racetrack, which is one thing that makes Gateway so unique. And this is one of the bigger tracks on the schedule for the National Sprint Car Trail. So I'm excited to see if we see any different players up front tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays itself out here. And speaking of those players that we're used to seeing, let's go ahead and run you through those championship standings for this series as drivers work their way around in practice. It is Aiden Young leading the way for Gamblin Motorsports in the number 169. Stephen Spees behind him. Bruce Jones, Justin Morton, and Rory Collins rounding out your top five. And really all of those top five finishers certainly within a striking distance of Aiden Young up on top. So going to be absolutely fascinating to see how all of them perform here today. Let's also go ahead and take a quick look at the schedule for this season, because we do have a absolutely jam-packed schedule of racing. You can see we're at Eldora last time out. Next time we let loose the sprint cars at North Wilkesboro, that's going to be a bumpy ride. For me, one of the ones I'm most looking forward to in 3 weeks' time, headed to my original home track of Kokomo. That's going to be pretty fantastic to see. As you can see, we are racing all the way into March in this very, very special season. But Kenny, checkered flag flying in the air for these drivers in practice. It is time to go qualifying. And unlike a lot of the other series that we see out there, qualifying has got a lot put behind it. If you are able to get yourself up forward, you don't have to mess with the heat race. If you are in the top six, that's an automatic advance right on into the A main.
Yeah, so these drivers are going to go for a 4-lap solo average, so you have to make sure you get 4 clean laps or else your entire qualifying effort will not count. It's pretty much a qualifying format that's gone across most of Bootleg Racing League's series this season. But yeah, the top 6 advance to the feature directly, do not have to participate in the heats. The heats tonight will be 12 laps, and the top 18 finishers will advance to the feature, which we will not have to deal with that tonight. We have too short of a field. We'll have a 3-minute warm-up and then a 30-lap feature. So qualifying is important, and it's a good test to see just how much you want to push the limit here, because really these cars are about driving finesse. So that's one exciting thing that I've found from the driver's perspective in BRL now is having a chance to really push the limit in any race car for the BRL and seeing what you can really put on the table.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. It looks like here a little bit early on, Jason Menda, Aiden Young setting some quick times down on the board as everybody works their way around. And as you said, this is pretty crucial here. You've got to be able to run cleanly, and that is particularly difficult coming out of turns 1 and 2. You want to carry as much momentum as possible out to the outside of the racetrack as we ride on board here, but you don't want to carry too much. Flirting down with that lower lane as much as possible. You can see they're trying to carry that momentum onto the outside. These cars are finesse, as you said, Kenny, and you have got to have a lot of finesse to be able to drive them quickly around here.
Yeah, you really do, and what I've noticed from the driver's seat is that these cars are pretty difficult to stop. You really have to let off a lot earlier than you might think. There's not a whole lot of aerodynamic help on these cars other than kind of the body panels surrounding the outsides there. You don't have a wing or anything like that to help you out, so you got to make sure you can let off and get down to the bottom. You see Justin Morton really wrapping the bottom there, and then again you have 2 totally different corners around this place, so on the different ends of the circuit. So one approach will not cut it here. It's hard to stay in a rhythm around a place like this.
Yeah, very, very much so. And the draft also going to come into play here a little bit as we talk about these cars do break the air in front of you, especially down these longer straightaways for the Silver Crown. So that is certainly going to be something that we talk about here. We watch some drivers continue to work their way around here, setting these 4 qualifying laps into the books. We watch here as the number 81 there of Joe Sagala works his way around. Love that paint scheme on Joe. He's had some really fantastic colors across the Bootleg Racing League this year. Is about 3 minutes in the books in qualifying, and Jason Menda sets the first time to beat with a 31.652, immediately beaten by Justin Morton and Rory Collins.
Yeah, no surprise to see Justin Morton go to the top of the board with a 31.330. Justin, he's a wheelman in any car you put him in, and this particular championship seems to really fit his style. These are driving cars that he enjoys, that not a lot of other leagues allow the participation of. So I really think that this kind of championship fits his style, but I'm interested to see what kind of time Aiden Young puts up, because he's obviously our championship leader, and consistency has been no bigger of a story than it would be in this particular championship, and he's done a great job of just being consistent in all 4 race cars this season.
Yeah, it really has there as we watch the 998 there of James Tierney getting a little bit squirrely there off the line. Still waiting for Aiden Young to put in a time. It actually doesn't look like he's going to be able to get one in. I don't see him out on track right now, so a little bit strange there for the 169. Not sure exactly what's happening to him. But as James Tiernan now jumps his way up to the top of the charts there with the 998, that little bit of a squiggle that I talked about seemingly not to affect the white 998. And he's going to bring his way up to pole position.
Yeah, it looks like Aiden Young actually hit the wall on his very first qualifying lap, so he will end up dead last because he's the only one that has not put a time in. So he's going to have to run a little heat race here in a moment, and then we'll most likely start near the back of the field for the feature. So a little bit of work cut out here for Aiden Young, and that's a shame because his practice time was in the 31.3s, which would have put him first, second, third, somewhere in that area if he could put 4 laps together. But that just shows you can't just have one single good lap. You have to have 4 of them.
Yeah, you really and truly do. So that is going to put Aiden Young in a little bit of a position to work his way back forward. Remember, we will have that heat race. No drivers expected not to transfer here, so it looks like it's going to be Sagala and Aiden Young as well as Lowell Jewell. Those 3 drivers participating in this heat race. And again, this is not to determine who is going to go home necessarily. This is instead going to be a case of where you're going to start in the feature event here. As we do take a look right now, Lowell Jewell will line up in pole position, followed by Joe Segala, and then Aiden Young. That will be your 3-car finishers, and this will be the really good time, I think, for us here, Kenny, to get a sense of how these cars are going to act in traffic. We've seen what they can do over the course of one lap by themselves. Now it's time to see what they can do when they're running around one another.
Yeah, it really is. And these cars, a lot of times in the races, we'll see drivers kind of spread out after a few laps. But like you said, the draft can be a big deal, at least on the starts and restarts. But if nothing else for these drivers, it's a little more track time, so you can get some extra practice laps and work on your racecraft. I mean, these cars are kind of an art form to drive, so it's more laps around a racetrack is not a bad thing.
No, it's certainly not. The more you can feel comfortable in the car, the better you're going to be, I think, for these drivers. Only one pace lap around here, as this is not a short oval, technically. It's sort of in that weird intermediate space, Kenny. It's not a 1.5 mile intermediate oval. It's not a true short oval under a mile. Really pretty unique in terms of ovals around the world.
Yeah, 1.25 miles is a very odd length, and with the two corners being totally different, occasionally you'll see, road course drivers being decently competitive here because of the fact that the two ends of the racetrack are so different. But it's kind of unique. I'm glad NASCAR is starting to come here more often in the real life, because it's a deserving racetrack, but we're about to go green here.
Yes, we are. Lowell Jewell, series organizer, bringing us to the green, as there goes the green, and we get racing here for the heat race, as that is a very, very good getaway from Aiden Young. We ride on board with the 169, poking his nose to the inside here of Joe Segala as they work their way through turn 1 and 2 right now. Segala up on the high line. Aiden Young working down low. He's going to slot himself into line. Already one position gained there for the 169.
There you see the draft working down the backstretch, and Aiden's going to look to the inside of Lowell Jewell. Lowell's going to give him that inside line, and Aiden's going to try to wrap the bottom here. Lowell's going to give him a decent amount of racing room, and Aiden will take over the lead. We'll see if he can pull away, and it looks like Joe Segala is going to try to take advantage of that and also take second place away. And it looks like Aiden Young already pulling out to a 5+ car length advantage.
Yeah, up to a 5-car length advantage there as they go. Joe Segala able to get the move done on Lowell Jewell, but now Lowell's going to be able to pull himself back into line here and tuck up behind that 81. We're already seeing the effect of the draft starting to come into play. Jewell starting to work his way up, taking a later apex into the corner, really trying to diamond off the exit of it to maximize speed as he runs off of it, but it looks like it lost him a little bit of time there. Kenny, I think the fastest way to get through turn 3 and 4 there looks to be just hugging that low line.
Yeah, I think the shorter way around is probably going to be for the best, just because these cars seem to be, with this setup, pretty tight on entry. You see Lowell Jewell making a look towards the inside of the Segala there, doing almost a little bit of a slide job there. But on entry, these cars, like I said, are pretty difficult to get stopped, and they're pretty pushy on entry and then loose off. So, you go to that high line, you're just going to lose a lot of speed on entry to middle. You'll have the drive off, but if you can get the power planted down to the bottom or to the racetrack. But I think the shortest way around, wrapping that bottom, even maybe flirting with the apron or the rumble strip rather, is probably going to be the fastest way around this place.
Well, looks like Lowell's been able to figure that out a little bit as he pulls himself now up into that second place position and certainly holds on to it here as they go. Working on 5 laps of 15 in the book as we work our way through a pretty separated outfield here, it has to be said, as everybody works their way around. But again, this is just going to be a great time here for these drivers to really get a sense of what this track is going to feel like, and it may even give them a little bit of an advantage over some of the drivers that automatically qualified.
Yeah, and I actually saw last time around turn 3 and 4, Joe Segala really caught a lot of the curb, and I was wondering how aggressive drivers were going to be with that. And that can potentially, in some cars, help the car turn and rotate a little more, but in others it can really upset the car as well. And I saw last time, not this time, he didn't touch the curb, but the time before that, he did grab a lot of curb, and it did upset the car quite a bit. So I think majority of the field is going to have to try to treat the curb more as a hazard than as an asset to getting around this place.
Yeah, and that normally tends to be the case in a lot of cars that you see rocking around here, particularly the Indy cars that have made this place home. A very, very tricky run for them down to the inside, but it does look like Segala starting to catch his way back up a little bit. Looks like he's going to be up into a pretty good position here as he runs to maybe try to make a little bit of a move on Lowell as they go. Lowell running a little bit higher there out of that corner, out of turn 3, as here he comes trying to hold that line. This continues to be the battle. Aiden Young checked out at the front of the field.
Yeah, Aiden Young's really putting it to him. Actually ran one lap in a 31.2s, which would have been faster than pole time back on lap 3. So he's running really nice and consistent laps. And like you said, DJ, the more laps that these drivers can run possibly could be an advantage. The only disadvantage is that, you know, a driver like Aiden's going to have to really be mindful getting through a little bit of traffic at the beginning. He obviously has a fast car, just made a mistake in qualifying. You have to hope that he doesn't that doesn't hurt him in the feature. Even though, you know, 8-9 cars is not a huge field, it's big enough to have a large wreck at the start of these races.
Yeah, and that's really what you've got to watch out for. You do not want to be involved in one of those big incidents or accidents that can fire off in these races. You get a little bit of a pile up there, particularly through turn 1 with the high banking there. You can see that really come into play for those drivers, so you've got to be careful about that. That's something that we're going to be watching when we get into this feature race in just a little bit of time. But about 6 laps left to go here for Aiden Young, and as they bring their way around, looks like Segala there playing some new lines, trying to see what it's like down on that super low line, and that looked like it worked. He's going to have a look down to the inside of Lowell Jewell going into 1.
Yeah, and on top of that, Lowell really missed the corner into 3, ran the high line all the way around and just could not get the car to stop pushing. Lost a ton of time through there, and Joe was able to take advantage of it, but not quite able to actually make the move. And, you know, these drivers are playing really nice, but it might be a little more difficult to pass on the bottom if the driver on the outside decides to try to pinch you off and not give you a whole lot of exit room. These cars are relatively pushy, but also loose on throttle. So, you know, again, as the aggression moves up, it may become more and more difficult to pass around this place.
Yeah, it certainly might. We'll have to see as we get into the feature race just how that will shake itself out. That's going to be something I know I'm going to be keeping my eye on as they run. But there goes Segala down to the inside, going into the corner as they work their way through. Lowell going to be trying to hold in behind a little bit as they go. Ooh, big old wiggle there for Segala, but still not able to capitalize yet is Jewell as he comes in behind. Let's see what they were able to do here with about 4 laps remaining.
And even though it's only a 3-car heat, these two drivers are having an absolute ball. You know that they're smiling from ear to ear right now, just having a good old time. And obviously, since, you know, this heat doesn't matter a whole lot, but you know these drivers are going for it just to have a little bit of bragging rights going into the feature.
Oh, certainly. You tell a racing driver there's another driver in front of you, and that is going to be all you need to see to let that battle actually try to take itself out as they close in with 3 laps remaining here on the trot. Not a whole lot of time left for these drivers. Lowell Jewell trying to be able to see if he's going to be able to work his way up forward past Joe Segala here. They'll come to the line with 2 laps to go, so not a lot of time left for any of these drivers. Let's see, though, trying to be able to look at that crossover move. There is Jewell. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get it. He's certainly going to try for it here as they run. Looking down into turn 1 now as they come. Is he going to be able to get this move done with 2 laps to go? No, he's going to stay in line.
Yeah, maybe going to try to put a little bit of pressure on Joe to possibly make him make a mistake as, Joe is a little bit wide on the exit of 2, gets really close to the outside wall, and looks like Lowell's going to look down to the inside. Joe's going to give it to him. Lowell's going to drive it in a little bit deep, but keeps the car on the bottom. Nicely done pass. We're going to come around to the white flag. Aiden Young's already taken the white, but these two drivers have not settled it for second yet.
No, they certainly have not, as here they come. A little bit of distance, let's call it about 3 car lengths in between Jewell and Segala. Segala trying to close in, getting onto the loud pedal there out of turn 2. He's going to try to take a little bit of the draft here, going down the long back straightaway, but I don't know if he's going to be close enough. As up at the front of the field, Aiden Young coming across the start-finish line. He will take victory here in heat number 1, and there, across the back of it, it looks like Lowell Jewell will be able to hold on to P2. Sagala holding on to P3.
A nice little battle between those two drivers. One thing I watched, Aiden Young only had about 2 to 3 tenths of fall off there. That's one thing I was wondering about was tire wear. Not a whole lot in 15 laps there. So maybe tire wear won't be a huge factor going into the feature, but the feature is over double the length of this race. So it could be, but cooler temperatures, a little more grip, a little more speed. We'll have to see if that plays into anything.
We'll have to see indeed, as now we let the drivers loose for a 5-minute warm-up session before we get ready to go for the 50-lap feature race here tonight. A little bit longer than we are used to because of the asphalt nature and the high speeds of these cars. We focus here on Justin Morton. As we said, one of those drivers to certainly keep your eye on. J-Mo, one of those drivers that is a real hot shoe here in a lot of these short track kind of cars. Great to see him really and truly taking to this National Sprint Car Trail Series.
Yeah, and the one race that we've run in the Silver Crown cars was a victory for Justin Morton. It was back at Iowa Speedway. So he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder here coming in and leading the points in this discipline coming in. But one thing that was pretty interesting is James Tiernan, our pole sitter. He was the victor in the 360 sprints, totally different discipline. I don't think he even participated in the first Silver Crown race, so kind of a different driver up front. I think it's going to be a barn burner battle between the 998 and the 9.
I think you're certainly right about that. And let's not forget about the 169 as well. Aiden Young, he's got to fight his way back up from about 7th on the grid, but he certainly has the speed to be able to do it. He may be put out a little bit, but he'll be one to keep an eye on. We look a little farther back in the field. Another BRL mainstay, Jason Menda, in the number 45, working his way around, currently in 3rd place, in just about, let's call it a 10th and a half off of Tiernan's best time.
Yeah, and going back to Aiden Young, too, in his situation, he's going to be starting 7th place in this feature, and he's got to kind of play 2 games here. He's going to have to first be, calculating as he makes his way through the field to get up to where the leaders are, but at the same time, try to not let those 2 leaders get away from each other or from him from the beginning, because there's not usually a whole lot of cautions in this series. If those drivers are pretty equal on pace to him and they get really far away from him, it might be difficult for him to catch up and secure a win without some help from maybe some cautions or maybe a battle between those 2 leaders.
Yeah, we will have to see just how that plays out. We only have about 2 minutes until we will see the drop of that green flag here from Gateway. The 5-minute warm-up session almost concluded on the day, as drivers continue to work their way around. Interesting that Aiden Young and Mojuel not taking to the track. Maybe that's just a way for them to relax a little bit. They did run that heat race, so they are familiar with how the track is feeling here at this point in the night.
Yeah, and unlike dirt, the track will change a little bit with some temperature change and some more rubber being put down, but it's not going to change quite as much as a dirt track would. So and especially like you said, since they already got 15 laps on the racetrack under racing conditions, I don't think they're going to really care a whole lot if they make or miss any laps here in this warm-up session.
Yeah, exactly. They've got the experience that they need to sort of get an idea of what it's going to feel like. About 1 minute and 15 seconds left to go in warm-up. They continue to work their way around, and we follow Justin Morton here as he works his way through, only about a half a tenth off of James Tiernan, who set down the fastest time for the session. So a good run there for them. That's going to be some interesting running here, I think. Because there you can see the 2 of them running very, very close to one another. I have to imagine James Tiernan probably studying a little bit off of J-Mo, just trying to figure out what that number 9 is going to be doing.
Yeah, and looks like the speed is picking up even more in the racetrack, because Tiernan in this warm-up here has run a 31.185. That's the first couple laps that we've seen in the 31.1s. Qualifying pole time average was a 31.3. With a couple laps he ran out of that were in the 31.2s. So the speeds are definitely picking up. And again, I'm only seeing a couple tenths worth of fall off at the moment, so the speed's just not really falling right now.
Yeah, not really falling down. We'll have to see. I mean, 50 laps is a long time on these tires. We'll have to see how that plays itself out here for these drivers. But 1 second left as the checkered flag flies for warm-up, and we get ready to stack the field up behind the iRacing safety car and get ready to go racing here for our feature event on the night from Worldwide Technology Raceway. And here is your starting grid for the night. It is going to be James Tiernan lining up in pole position, as we said. Justin Morton to his outside. Then it's Rory Collins and Bruce Jones, followed by Jason Menda and Todd Liston. Aiden Young, Bolt Jewell, and Joe Segala will make up the back of the field here in this 9-car feature event. Again, Kenny, 50 laps here as we get ourselves ready to go. And I'm looking to you. What are you thinking we're going to see? Who do you have your eye on?
Well, I mean, I'm going to be keeping my eye on it at the beginning with Aiden Young, because he's got the most work to do and he's got the fastest car out of the drivers around him. So I'm really watching him to see what his approach is as far as getting through the traffic, how aggressive he decides to be. At the same time, you know, I think the favorite coming in has to be Justin Morton. He's the defending winner of the last Silver Crown event. But he's maybe had a little bit of his thunder stolen by James Tiernan, with him coming in and grabbing the pole. And Tiernan's a little bit of an unknown as far as these Silver Crown cars compared to the rest of the BRL grid here. So those are the three main storylines that I'm going to be watching. I think I'm going to go with Justin Morton on this one. I think just from experience of racing against him, he's just so consistent and smooth. And at the same time, I know he loves this racetrack, both in the sim world and the real life world, so he's got a decent bit to race for.
Yeah, we'll have to see here. You kind of stole my thunder. I was thinking about J-Mo myself, but I'm going to throw a little bit of a wild card out here. I think the 169 of Aiden Young may be the one to watch. He's going to be trying to move his way up through the field as much as possible, so that's going to be an interesting run to watch. But only 2 more corners here to go under the safety car before we let loose the horsepower. There are the Silver Crowns on Gateway, as here they come holding on behind that iRacing safety car as it will make its way down into pit lane here shortly. There it goes, scampering off, giving control of the field over to James Tiernan at the front as all eyes go to Barney the Flagman, and there goes the green. We are racing in Gateway. Very good getaway there from Tiernan. Looks like J-Mo's going to slot right into line. A little bit of side-by-side there in the back. Rory Collins trying to make his way up forward a little bit, as it looks like Bruce Jones has been able to lock down into third place. That's Todd Liston trying to make some moves there around the outside. Little bit of bumping and banging off the wall, but everybody through turn 1 and 2 clean.
Yeah, nice clean start. You see there, one car popped out of line. That's Aiden Young trying to make some moves. He does make a pass on Jason Menda. Oh, and he taps the back end of, I believe that was Rory Collins, and we have a huge wreck in 3 and 4. Rory's on his roof, and he will end up flipping back on his wheels. That's fortunately at least be able to roll away. But there you go, DJ. That is the penalty for starting near the back, which Aiden Young had to face, and just driving a little too hard, or just a little bit of a miscommunication. Too much of a closing rate in 3 and 4 on Rory Collins causes that wreck. We take a look at the replay there. You see Aiden gets into the back of Rory, sends him spinning, and Jason Menda, poor innocent victim there, nowhere for him to go. Luckily for Aiden, he's able to continue on. A scary moment, though, for him.
A very scary moment. And let's remember that these drivers do have a spare car that they are able to jump on into. So that is exactly what we are going to see happen here from Rory Collins, Jason Menda, and I believe Aiden Young may have already gotten that spare car. But plenty of drivers here in a little bit of problems as they now continue to circulate around here. Caution laps do not count in the Bootleg Racing League, so you will not see a break in any of the action. It will continue to be green all the way through the field. A little bit scruffy there, it has to be said, going through turns 3 and 4, but you got to respect what was able to happen there in 1 and 2. Looked like some pretty close but pretty fair racing in between them.
Yeah, I think the leaders were just trying to settle in there and just kind of walk away from the rest of the field. One thing I noticed, though, I don't think Rory Collins took a faster pair, and I don't think Jason Menda did either. Not sure if they just didn't have it checked on or not. Jason Menda does go 1 lap down, and I know Rory, I think he got caught a lap down as well. So we'll see if those drivers come back around and are able to take their faster pair. But that's going to possibly take them out of contention. But that's at least going to stack the field back up, and we'll get this thing rolling one more time.
Yeah, we will, as we're going to have one more lap of caution around here, at least as they circulate back around on this circuit, trying to see what they are able to do. Lights on, the safety car still on here at this point. Aiden Young certainly finding himself a little bit farther up in the field, but Tiernan got off to a very, very good start up at the front of the field. Got to be said, that was about as picture-perfect of a getaway as you could hope for the 998. But Justin Morton here under yellow certainly trying to keep this close behind. I don't think he wants to get into the head a little bit of Tiernan.
Yeah, and I think between those two leaders, it's really going to be kind of a chess match. I think they're two very evenly matched drivers. And again, these two have not raced against each other that many times. And nobody's really raced against each other that many times in these race cars. So I think they're kind of going to feel each other out a little bit just to see who is strong and weak where. And it can be kind of an advantage in some ways to kind of hang back in second place and see where the leader is weak or where he makes a mistake, or you can just sit back and pressure him into making a mistake. Morton's got a long time to be able to set something up, and he's a very patient race car driver. So I expect him to kind of just hang in there and just kind of see where he can make his attack.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it's going to be, just trying to wait for the opportunity to be able to make the attack. That is what I would be doing if I was Justin Morton, but we are back double wide here and ready to go back racing to get restarted here on lap 5 of 50 at Gateway as the safety car pulls its way back down into pit lane. James Tiernan getting onto the loud pedal once again, and we are back racing. That's a very good jump there from the number 17, able to get his way forward, may even be thinking about challenging Justin Morton going down into turn 1. Looks like that's not going to play itself out. J-Mo going to be able to roll some good speed there around the outside here as they go, and they're going to slot in 1, 2, 3, 4. Tiernan, Morton, Jones, Liston, and Young coming on like a train with a full head of steam.
Yeah, pretty much single filed out already as we dive down into turn 3 one more time. You see Aiden Young putting the pressure onto Todd Liston. These drivers getting onto the curb just a little bit. I'd be a little bit worried if I saw a driver in front of me getting on the curb like that. We saw how it really upset Joe Segala's car in the heat race that we watched earlier. You see a couple drivers going up the track just a little bit, and Aiden Young going to try to poke his nose in there on the inside of Todd Liston off a 2-0. A car going into the grass. That's Lowell Jewell. Spins into the inside wall. No caution at the moment, and he's going to tow.
Yeah, he is going to take a tow there as he has a little bit of a problem, and that is not going to bring out a yellow flag here for this, as now you can see up at the front of the field, that is Justin Morton pulling into the tow here of James Tiernan. That chess match certainly starting to begin, Kenny.
Yeah, and one thing Justin's going to have to be careful with here is if he gets a decent bit of a draft. I'm kind of tracking his top speed here down the backstretch. Yeah, he's going in excess of 173 miles an hour down into turn 3. You have to really be careful that you don't overdrive the entry of the corner, because if you come in with a head of steam with a nice draft, you're going to have to let off a little bit early or be a little more aggressive on the brakes to make sure you don't miss that corner. So it's a little bit different once you get out in front.
Yeah, it certainly is, as we work our way around right now. J-Mo trying to work down on the low side. We've got a nice little battle here starting to shape itself up. This is Joe Segala leading ahead of Jason Menda. Remember, Menda trying to claw his way back up and forward right now. Menda looking this way, Menda looking that way, trying to see if there's going to be anything to be had going down through 3 and 4. Looks like he's going to try to take that line that we saw Lowell Jewell take many, many a time here around that heat race. As we've got another move. Here comes Aiden Young moving to the outside of Bruce Jones going into 1. Is he going to be able to make that move work? Jones down to the inside. Young trying to roll speed, looking maybe for a little bit of a crossover here. Is the 169. Is he going to have to check his momentum up? He's going to try to keep it rolling here as they go, and that was just about as perfect as you can make it.
We'll see if he can clear into turn 3. He does. That was a textbook over-under there from Aiden Young, and that's kind of the beauty of these race cars around a big track like this. A lot of area to move around. You can make different lines work, and Gateway especially is not necessarily a low-line dominant track. You can be kind of creative around this place, at least when you're trying to make passes. But Aiden Young doing a really good job, and now he has to set his sights on the leaders up front. You see nose to tail, 2 leaders still kind of locked onto each other at the moment. We'll see if Aiden Young can eat into that advantage that Tiernan has.
Yeah, we're going to have to see here at this point the gap about 1.5 seconds, so that is what it's going to be. And I've got to say, if Tiernan and Morton continue to fight here a little bit, that may allow for Aiden Young to be able to close in, and that's going to be right on the mind of these two leaders. Rest assured that they are very, very cognizant of that battle, that they do not want to be fighting that much. I guarantee you they do not want Aiden Young involved in this battle at all. Young, however, is dropping Bruce Jones, so he is certainly catching up here a little bit more as we continue to watch this battle up for the lead of the race.
Yeah, we'll see what the lap times are as we cross the line here. Looks like Tiernan last time by ran a 31.33. Aiden Young ran a 31.50. So Tiernan and Morton just a little bit faster than Aiden Young right now. But we'll have to see if Aiden can. It's going to really come down to, in these cars, going to come down to mistakes, I think, because you can really be rewarded for driving these cars smoothly, but you can really be punished if you miss a corner, go up the track, things like that. So, and also you got to make sure you really keep the rear tires underneath you. You see Aiden Young get a little bit loose off of turn 4 that time. That is not going to reward you with speed, especially later on in this race. So Aiden's going to kind of have to keep a cool head here and race the racetrack. I think a car like this is so conducive to racing the racetrack instead of racing your competition.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Kenny, and it's an adage that we like to use a lot of the times as commentators and drivers is racing the racetrack but feeling it out. But that is what is so crucial about running Gateway. Yes, it's this weird 1.25-mile circuit, but it really drives a little bit like a short track. And when you drive a short track, you've got to be racing the racetrack. You've got to be feeling out the car and feeling where the track wants you to go. And so that is what you've got to do here. Aiden Young, by the way, has lost about 2 seconds off the pack, as here is Jason Menda trying to work his way up through the field. He's been able to dispatch Joe Segala a little bit earlier, now coming up to the back of Todd Liston.
Yeah, and I actually said that Jason Menda earlier lost a lap under that last caution. He actually did not. Stayed on the lead lap and was able to get his car repaired. So this is for position here, trying to grab a top 5 from Todd Liston. So Jason making a decent recovery here. These drivers are about 6 to 7 seconds behind the leaders, but it looks like Jason here trying to just gain the spots that he can, get back into a rhythm, and it looks like he is still making some forward progress here.
Yeah, starting to make a little bit of forward progress and work his way up through the field. His last lap, by the way, was 31.7, so that is markedly quicker than Liston up ahead of him. He should be able to start to poke his way up forward here if he wants to try to make a little bit of a move down into turn 1. Doesn't look like he's going to go for it there. Lets the car swing a little bit wide, really diamonding off the corner, and that's really about racing the racetrack, just feeling out where the car wants to move a little bit, not trying to fight. Almost contact there between Menda and him, but he's able to get the move done and come down to the inside.
Yeah, I think there actually was a little bit of a bump there between those two black and red cars, because you saw both of the cars kind of get a little bit loose. I think Menda just wanted to grab the draft and swipe out from behind Todd at the last second, but I think he gave him just a little bit of a nudge, which would be pretty dangerous in these race cars, but he's able to get away with it, and these drivers can drive on. But I really am enjoying how the drivers can really go up the racetrack, dive down, and get that over-under going. That seems to be the most popular form of passing in these cars. And I want to bring the battle a little bit to P4 right now. Bruce Jones actually cutting into the advantage of Aiden Young, who is in front of him. Bruce is kind of a dark horse right now. I didn't expect a whole lot, at least from him compared to the top 3, but here he is putting a little bit of pressure on Aiden.
Yeah, putting a little bit of pressure onto the back of him and doing a good job. He's been able to keep that gap under a second, which is crucial. That means he will be getting a nice little heaping of the draft as they come onto these straightaways. And because these cars aren't necessarily all that aero dependent, it's not like running an IndyCar or a next gen around here. You're not going to have to worry about the aero wash coming through the corners, but still taking a little bit of that different line. And there, as we rode on board, you could really see him diamonding off that corner, as we talked about, entering low, letting the car run up high, and then exiting out low.
Yeah, and as I watch the two leaders up front, looks like Morton and Tiernan running pretty much identical racing lines at the moment. Justin hasn't really been running that over-under line, but it could be just a case where he's not really showing his full hand. You do see Tiernan up the racetrack just a little bit. Morton just wrapping the bottom completely right there. But again, I think this is just Morton sitting here just kind of waiting in the wings to see if Tiernan will make a mistake, just kind of seeing what Tiernan's tendencies are. We still have over half of this race to go. I don't think he's really worried at all about Tiernan getting away. And really, Morton can kind of underdrive here if he chooses, which the amount of pressure that he's putting on Tiernan could force Tiernan into burning his stuff up a little bit early.
Yeah, and that is something that I was going to bring up. And I've been noticing coming off of corner exits, they're off of 2 and off of 4. Tiernan looking, dare I say, a little bit squirrely, like that car's trying to dance away from him here a little bit. And I wonder if Tiernan is just having to use a little bit more of the tire life on that car to try to get as best of a run as he can. Meanwhile, Justin Morton, and here comes Morton, a look down to the inside. He's going to try to go for the move. Tiernan going to roll the momentum up on the high side there as they go. Doesn't look like that move's going to play itself out, but Morton showing his nose, letting Tiernan know that he is there, and certainly trying to set him up for a little bit of an overtake.
Yeah, that was interesting that Tiernan left that bottom lane open. There's been a couple laps now where he's left it open. Now, one thing I'm noticing is that Justin Morton, especially after turn 4, is doing a slightly better job of washing up towards the wall. And Tiernan is really still turning the car a lot and not letting the car kind of flow up off the exit. So it's actually, Morton opening up the wheel like that is going to allow him to save his front tires just that little bit more, and potentially his rear tires too, if these drivers start to fight wheel spin off of these corners. And you see there's one of the first examples we've seen of Morton trying to go up to the top, come down to the bottom, try that over-under. Didn't really get any good advantage though off of turn 4 this time, but it looks like Morton is starting to experiment just a little bit with the line. You see Tiernan again up the racetrack just a little bit, and that's really all the space that's needed for the driver in behind to kind of stick his nose in, because again, these cars are so small and narrow, does not take much space needed.
No, it really does not, and I think Justin Morton is recognizing that. We saw him poke his nose down to the inside a couple of laps ago, and I think he's going to know that that's where the opportunity needs to be gained, setting himself up off of a good run off of 3 and 4, and then being able to get the run down into 1 and 2 here. But it looks like here that he's now just kind of following behind, a little bit of a later apex there as he took it out through the corner, trying to see what he's able to do. Tiernan now getting a little bit interesting, trying to break the draft a little bit, potentially doing a little bit of a Simon Pagenaud and weaving down the back straightaway.
Also interesting to see that Tiernan's starting to build a little bit of a gap. This is about the largest lead that he's had. Ooh, he's loose off of turn 4 there. Actually, it might have been a little bit of mix of loose and just snaking down the stretch intentionally to break the draft again. But Tiernan is further away than he's been from Morton this entire race, and I almost wonder if maybe potentially Justin Morton being in some dirty air may have actually hurt him a little bit. I wouldn't think so. Could even just be Tiernan might have been just kind of over or under driving for the first half of this race, and now starting to turn it on a little bit. But here comes Morton again in that draft, and he is starting to close the gap. And last time by ran about half a tenth quicker than Tiernan, and in behind, Aiden Young ran a 31.85, and Bruce Jones ran a 31.58, second best lap time on the racetrack last time by.
That's very impressive there from Bruce Jones to be able to do that. As there we compare those gap times as they start to work their way down a little bit here for JMO. You can see the sort of back and forth as it's played itself out. He is starting to reel back in here. The gap under about 0.3 of a second now as they cross up the start-finish line to work on lap 25. We are at about the halfway point here in this race. Only one caution flag out here at Gateway from that first lap incident. Other than that, we have been clean and green. There again, we see Tiernan doing a little bit of that weaving. Didn't look like he got loose there coming off the corner, Kenny. I think that was an intentional move.
Yeah, I think so. He's definitely starting to snake just about every lap now. A little bit less of snaking effect this time by, but Morton's really using that draft to his advantage, and he's making up a lot of time on corner entry right now. The only bad thing about that is that it can potentially hurt his exit speed. Tiernan doing a nice job of exiting nice and straight at the moment. Morton just overcharging. Well, I wouldn't even say overcharging, but definitely charging into the entry of the corners a little bit deeper than Tiernan, and he has to make sure that he can still keep those front tires underneath him if he's going to choose to drive that way. Sometimes you can just take advantage of having that reference in front of you and just driving a little bit deeper in, whereas the leader doesn't really have much of a reference unless he's using a visual on the outside of the racetrack as kind of a let-off or braking marker. Otherwise, as the leader, you're kind of forced to underdrive a little bit just to make sure you don't miss your entry point.
Yeah, certainly true there as they continue to work their way around. By the way, they have been able to extend the gap over Aiden Young despite a little bit of this battling that we've seen. It now holds at about 5 seconds between Young and Morton, and they continue to do their way around. Bruce Jones still doing a good job to be able to keep his way in behind Aiden Young. That gap holding at about 0.5 of a second here as they run. I got to give some credit here to Jones. I thought that move was going to be done and dusted and Young was going to be skating off into the distance. But as we said a little bit earlier, Bruce Jones are doing a really, really good job to be able to keep that car into position. And very, very high up the track there, though, really taking that crossover line. I think Jones doing a little bit of experimentation here as well.
Yeah, I think he certainly is. You see Aiden Young actually dove down to the bottom of the racetrack down the front stretch to try to get rid of some of the draft, but you see Jones there just trying to overdrive almost a little bit into turn one, kind of close that gap. Now, one thing you can kind of do is if you can overdrive the corner and just kind of be in the vicinity of the car around you off of the corner, you don't even have to have the full exit speed, but if you can get close enough through the corner, as Aiden Young actually scuffed the outside wall there out of turn 4, if you can be hanging with the driver in front of you off of the corner, even if you don't have the exit speed, you're going to gain that exit speed from the draft. And you see Bruce Jones here all over the back of Aiden Young. Aiden trying to get back into a rhythm after he made that mistake.
Yeah, and trying to be able to get back into that rhythm is easier said than done. It has to be said. A very, very tricky thing to do is now that gap has come down to about 0.3 of a second, and for sure, Bruce Jones going to be feeling the benefit of the draft as they work their way around right now. Trying to see what he's able to do. That gap coming down a little bit more as the number 17 pokes his nose. A little bit of an earlier entry there into the corner as they ran now. Trying to see what he can do. Little bit of wiggles there from both cars. The gap coming down to about 2.5 of a second. I think Bruce Jones may be in contention here for this podium position, and I do not think this is Aiden Young's for sure.
And Bruce doing exactly what I would probably be trying to do right here is drive in the exit or drive in the entry a little bit higher, try to overdrive it a little bit and drive down the track on exit to try to get a good drive. One thing he can possibly do if he is able to get right up to the rear end of Aiden Young is he could potentially overdrive the entry up on the high side, and if he can just hang on to the side of Aiden Young coming off the corner, he should have an advantage going down into the next. I think if you can get to the side of the driver in front on the high side, I think you can potentially make it work. But we have seen a decent amount of passes on the bottom as well. So I think it could go either way. But you see it's a chess match here. Bruce Jones ran a couple of diamond lines a few corners ago, and Aiden wrapped the bottom. Now it's kind of role reversal here. Bruce Jones runs the bottom all the way around. Aiden runs the diamond line. So it's kind of just a back and forth, and Aiden might be doing a little bit of mirror driving here.
Yeah, maybe doing a little bit of mirror driving, as you said, just trying to keep him at bay for as much as possible. And we're really seeing this battle mirrored both for first and for third right now. It's a very, very close running here from all of these drivers. Aiden Young, as you said, though, continuing to work his way around. Looks like he's been able to grow just a little bit of a gap there over the last run. It looks like now that he's been able to get about 3.5 of a second. It was down to about 0.2 of a second earlier on in the run. We are already on lap 34, by the way. Make it 35 as your leaders cross over the start-finish line here. Very, very different lines for Young and Jones as they came out of the corner. And I think Bruce Jones just trying to figure out that grip, trying to figure out where he's going to be able to get a pass done.
Yeah, he really is just trying everything he can. We look back up to the battle for the lead, and Morton is pretty much back to where he was near the beginning of the race, right on the rear end there of Tiernan. He's actually using the curb quite a bit on the exit of turn 4 there, and if these cars are going to build tight, then that curb could become useful late in this race to get the car to turn a little bit more on the exit. You see Tiernan going wide, giving that bottom line to Justin, who is going to use that line, but a good exit there for Tiernan. And Tiernan really, this is a tactic of a lot of short track racers, is focusing on corner exit. You can, if you can have faith in that high line, go ahead, take the bottom line, go ahead. You can, you'll have to fight me on exit, because the exit is where you really have to set up a pass. If the leader can have a good exit speed, it's going to make it difficult for that driver in second to set up that pass.
Yeah, it certainly is, and you've got to be careful about that, of where you want to try to set up that pass here. We are going to potentially have a little bit of lap traffic working its way forward, so that could be something that we have to keep in mind here as they work their way around. How is lap traffic going to come into play for all of these drivers? Are they going to play nice, or are drivers going to find themselves a little bit blocked up here? What is going to happen? We will have to find out, as now they continue to work their way through right now. Getting around here, we focus on a little farther back into the field right now. This is Jason Menda, I believe, working his way through, and we focus in on Rory Collins, the back driver in the field. Menda having a big moment.
Boy, that was a close one, but able to mend that situation and not hit the inside fence there. Good save from the 45 Floridian driver there. A lot of times these cars are not too forgiving, but able to actually catch that one, and actually smart on him to actually kind of let the car drift all the way down, use up all the racetrack to not hit that inside fence. But you're looking again here at the Jones versus Young battle here, and again the same kind of distance between these two as what we have with the leaders. I'm kind of wondering, I'm curious to ask the top three drivers after this race what it's like to run behind somebody, because there could be a little bit of a dirty air factor with these cars. We have a caution on the racetrack, though. That's going to change everything.
It's a down lane here, and with about let's call it 12 laps to go, that is going to absolutely change everything. Are we going to see some drivers being able to make a move? This is Segala. This is what happened. Getting down onto those rumble strips there and just got very loose. Maybe a little bit of contact there with Rory Collins.
Yeah, and that right there is the example of how the curbs can really hurt you in any race car around Gateway here. And Joe ends up paying the ultimate price. You see here from Rory Collins on board. This will be a really good shot. You see their left side tires fully on the curb and no contact. Actually a really good wreck avoidance there by Rory to let off and kind of let that wreck play out. But just these cars are pretty on the edge as it is, and you get on that curbing and it can just really just upset the car beyond saving it.
Yeah, it certainly can, as they work their way around here right now. Lap 40 in the books. We're going to have a couple of laps of caution here. Maybe a chance for these drivers to cool down the tires a little bit as they continue to go, and that could set us up for a good little battle. The other question that I'm going to have here is, now that Aiden Young finds himself third in line, what is he going to be able to do? Is he going to be able to keep that gap close, or is he going to continue to lose some time? It will have to be seen as it plays out. Again, caution laps not counting here. We will get restarted on lap 40, so that means we will have 11 laps to go when the green flag flies once again.
And since it looks like between the top four drivers that it's been pretty difficult to pass amongst those four, I think the restart is going to be really key here, because even if the driver is a little bit slower in front than the driver in behind, if they can get a good jump on the restart or take advantage of a mistake or the draft, because all four of these drivers are going to be making turbulent air amongst each other, that could be the difference between victory and no victory amongst these four. So I think the restart is going to be key here, especially between these first two rows.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very crucial. And one of the crucial things is, because of the fact that we are restarting on lap 39 here, that does in fact mean that it will be a double file restart as they get themselves back around. When it comes into 10 laps to go, that's when we enter into single file restart territory. Although it does look like we are going to have at least one more lap of caution, I believe, as the safety car lights are still on here. So I've got to ask you here, Kenny, put on your driver's hat for a moment. What is your strategy? If you are sitting in the position here of Justin Morton, you've been behind for the majority of this entire race, what do you do to try to get past James Tiernan?
Well, I think the key moment on the restart, the first key moment is going to be the initial jump, which a lot of times it's really hard as a second place driver to time that and really be able to be in an equal side-by-side drag race down to turn 1. So your next opportunity is out of turn 2. A lot of times, if the leader has to take a defensive line into turn 1, that compromises their exit out of turn 2. So if Justin Morton can either drive deep into turn 1, go a high line, and then try to get a good long exit out of turn 2 and use that draft down out of turn 2, that's an option. Another thing is he could try to slip in behind Tiernan and just get a better drive off of 2 or better drive into 1 using that draft. But at the same time, he's going to have to play a defensive game with 2 quick drivers in behind him, and Aiden Young and Bruce Jones. And he hasn't really had to deal with that all race long. It's pretty much been no pressure in behind the number 9 car all night long. So his strategy is really going to depend on whether or not he can go full attack or if he's going to have the pressure in behind and be forced to drive defensively.
Well, that's going to be the question, and we're not going to have too long to find out until when that plays itself out here for these drivers. As we are ready to go back, racing lights are out on the iRacing safety car, and we are ready to get back under green flag racing with about 11 laps to go. Call it 12 laps, 11 at the line here, and it will be James Tiernan once again bringing everything around here as they go, waiting for the 998 to get onto the loud pedal, waiting for the safety car to scamper off down into pit lane. Let's see what plays itself out in the final 11 laps around Gateway. Who is it gonna be as Tiernan gets onto the loud pedal and gets a little bit of a jump there on Justin Morton. Morton having to play defensive, I think, as perfectly side by side come Aiden Young and Bruce Jones almost coming to blows there through turn 1.
And you see actually Jason Menda trying to make some offensive production here down the backstretch. Bruce Jones with not a great restart as he'll be side by side with Menda down into turn 3. Leaders have scampered away. Tiernan with a really good restart there, able to get a decent advantage through lap 1 on this restart, and Morton unable to take advantage of that draft as far as making a pass. Still side by side though for 4th between Menda and Jones. Jones really overdriving turn 1. He's going to get up into the fence, and he's stuck on it, going to slide down the track. He will keep the car under control, but that will take Jones out of contention for a top 3 finish.
Heartbreak there for Bruce Jones, who is going to be one of my drivers of the race, putting on a really good display. But we focus back here on J-Mo as he tries to work his way around right now. Closing in behind James Tiernan a little bit. The gap at about 3.5 tenths of a second, call it 3 tenths of a second, as they dive down into turn 1. Looking to see if he's able to gain a little bit more by running that low line. The gap is coming down a little bit. Now it's expanding once again as it looked like Tiernan was able to roll that corner a little bit better. Now they are dropping Aiden Young behind them to the tune of about 7 tenths of a second, but Jason Menda closing in on the back of Aiden Young, so that could be another battle that starts to play itself out here in the final 7 laps of this race.
Yeah, I think anybody beyond the top 2, they are going to need the draft or a restart, or these drivers to really battle amongst themselves for them to be able to get back into this fight for the lead. Now that this restart is kind of developed, the 2 leaders are going to scamper away, and I think we're back to pretty much a 2-horse race up at the front. And I think Aiden Young just disposed of Jones, and now he's got another black and red car in behind him, and Jason Menda, who's really come on strong as of late. He's been a little bit out of control a lap or 2, but has been able to get away with it, and now trying to put the pressure on Aiden, and he's kind of been a late player here.
Yeah, he certainly has. We'll have to see what the number 45 is able to do in these closing laps. 6 laps to go at the line for these drivers as they work their way around, but it does look like Menda's losing a little bit of touch there with Aiden Young up ahead of him, the gap expanding up to about 6 tenths of a second. Meanwhile, Justin Morton trying to hold on to the gap with James Tiernan, about 4.5 tenths of a second. He looks like he is losing grip as well. It is just proving very difficult to get by here at Gateway.
Yeah, these two leaders just so even with each other. They ran about half a tenth within each other last time by. And I just think, Morton's getting the draft off the corners, but he's just unable to get the car to, get good drive off when he tries to run a different line than what Tiernan's driving. And Tiernan's done a flawless job of not making any mistakes out front. Morton has thrown everything at him that he's possibly has been able to do. Tiernan even giving him the low line again here in turn 1. But again, look at the exit speed that Tiernan's able to amass off of turn 2, and Morton just unable to get as straight of an exit.
Yeah, I wonder if J-Mo's maybe used up his stuff here a little bit, and he is suffering from a little bit of tire wear. We'll have to ask him in about 4 laps time as they work their way out of turn 3 and 4. Now Tiernan continuing to lead ahead of Morton. They've been able to put a full second between themselves and Aiden Young. Young, meanwhile, has been able to put a full second between himself and Jason Menda. So all things considered, that looks like that is relatively in contention here to stay the way it is. The real question is going to be who is going to take the win in this race. Will it be Tiernan? Will it be Morton? They dive down into 3 and 4. Both drivers hugging down to those rumble strips, careful not to run too far over them. We saw what happened to Joe Segala when he tried to do just that, but he's able to get his way going as J-Mo now has the gap under 0.4 of a second with 3 laps to go.
And these leaders just trading lap times. It's, half a tenth there, 2/100ths there. It's it's really, really even between these two, and it's really an art form as we're taking a look at a battle here for, looks like, a little bit of contact there between Jones and Liston. Liston able to save it. That is an awkward spot here at Gateway with the wall that juts out away from the racetrack and then comes back in. Liston actually hit that, and we've seen some massive wrecks in that area in the past. Todd Liston able to get away with it, though, and remain in 6th place.
Yeah, and I thought for sure that was going to be something all kinds of nasty, but Liston able to escape, as you said, and that's going to allow for Bruce Jones to be able to hold on to P5, so his day not completely scuppered. But here comes Justin Morton on the attack. You can see just how low on the track he is pushing there. He is giving it everything coming through the final corner as the white flag waves for James Tiernan. The gap under 0.3 of a second. Justin Morton giving everything that he has here, coming down into the corner, lifting off through 1 and 2, trying to see what he is able to get. I don't think it's going to be close enough. The gap expanding at about 0.3 of a second right now. Has Tiernan done enough as they come down through turns 3 and 4 for the final time? Justin Morton continuing to push, but I think Tiernan has got this one in the bag. Morton all the way down onto the rumble strips, but it's not going to be enough as James Tiernan will take victory at Gateway.
Yeah, just a textbook race there by Tiernan, really by Morton as well, just unable to take any advantage because the driver up front did not make any mistakes tonight and was able to put it to him. And a driver that's now won a race on the dirt and won a race on the pavement as well.
Yes, he certainly has, as the fireworks go off down the back straightaway here for James Tiernan, and all the cars bring their way down into pit lane, and that is going to bring us to a quick break here on the Virtual Grip Network, but do not go anywhere. We will be back with the final finishing order as well as driver interviews in just a few moments.
This is the world's premier online racing simulation. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat from your home computer with the most realistic online motorsports experience you'll find anywhere. Race virtually in the world's biggest events with officially licensed series, cars, and tracks. From the high banks of Daytona to the blistering speeds of Indianapolis, the dirt of Eldora to the world's most legendary road courses. It's all here, and with more than 180,000 people just like you already driving, you'll always have someone to race. Ready to get behind the wheel? Sign up at iRacing.com to get started.
Welcome back to Gateway Motorsports Park for the BRL National Sprint Car Trail. It was James Tiernan that was able to take victory by the merest of margins over Justin Morton, who applied pressure over the entire course of the race. Aiden Young was able to come home from a starting position of 7th all the way up into 3rd. Then it was Jason Mende and Bruce Jones able to recover there as well, following the incident that we saw earlier on, him getting up into the wall in through turn 1. Todd Liston was able to come home in 6th place, followed by Joe Segala, Rory Collins, and Lowell Jewell rounding out your field here today. And that is going to bring us right over into interviews. And first and foremost, an interview with our winner here today, James Tiernan. James, a flag-to-flag victory there for you, but Justin certainly didn't make that look easy for you.
I tried my best not to look in my rear view mirror much of that race. It was just a matter of keeping my head down, running my line, and making sure I was where I needed to be. I saw he was running that lower line in 1 and 2, and I just hadn't practiced that one. I think in these cars, there was a little bit of dirty air effect. He seemed to be pushing there quite a bit at the end. So it was just a matter of me running my line and making sure I didn't make any mistakes to kind of let him get a nose in where I didn't want him, especially in 3 and 4. So, yeah, pretty good race. I wish that aero wash wasn't as big of a deal, because it would have been cool to be trading passes back and forth, but I'll take that too.
I'd certainly be taking a victory if I were myself. Any worries about tire wear over the course of that race? I mean, it did look a little bit about halfway through that you were getting a little bit squiggly off the corners.
I was more worried that my right front would burn off before my right rear. If I have a loose car, I'm generally pretty happy. It's when things starting to tighten up on me that I'm very unhappy. It just worked out that way. Thankfully the setup kind of played it, I think, in my favor of my driving, the way I drive, and kind of plays into that whole dirt thing too, where I kind of use throttle to steer, not so much the wheel, and that's basically how I drove this car. I think you guys mentioned that on the broadcast, how I was going slow in, fast out. That's exactly what I was doing.
Well, I'm glad we called that one right. Now, James, I've got to ask you, next time out, we let the sprinters loose on North Wilkesboro. A little bit bumpier of a track there for that. How do you think that one's going to go?
I like that track a lot. That's a fun one, and I really like the pavement sprint cars. I'm not so versed in the Silver Crown cars, so I was a little worried about, how the car would change over time, but sprint cars, that's my shtick right there.
Well, we wish you all the luck in the world when we get there, my friend. But as for today, who makes this possible?
First and foremost, I'd like to thank Roofco/Ergot Real Estate. If you've heard the broadcast from last week, you've heard that spiel. If you haven't heard it, go back and listen to that. It's good stuff. We also have Anderson Speedway, Motorsports Beat, Just Logistics, Paints by the Tuna Can, BS Air, Over the Wall Photography, Catch Fence Apparel, Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation. And finally, we actually have a deal with Flow Racing. So if you go to Elbows Up TV, our Facebook page, and you sign up with our link, I think it gives you a little bit of a discount. Plus, it gives us some dinero. So that would be much appreciated if you guys are signing up for Flow.
All right, there you go. James Tiernan, your victor here today. Congratulations again, my friend, and we'll see you next week.
Absolutely.
All right, that was your victor, James Tiernan, and now it looks like, Kenny, you've been able to catch up with the man who was chasing him all night long, Justin Morton.
Yeah, we're down here with Justin Morton, and Justin, it looked like you had the raw pace, it looked like, to compete with him, maybe even pass Tiernan for the victory there, but you just, it seemed like you reached a point and you were almost stuck in a bubble there where you could not get past a certain point. What was it like trying to get by Tiernan there, and were you struggling with dirty air in this one?
Yeah, I was definitely struggling with dirty air. These things can be almost as aero-sensitive as like an Indy car or something like that. Once the tires wore down, really wasn't much I could do. I was trying everything I could, but yeah, it was just a struggle just to try to get up there.
Now, I noticed there wasn't a whole lot of fall off in the lap times, only like 3-4 tenths, maybe 5, but was the car really changing as far as balance wise? Was it building, pushy to really hurt your drive off?
As the tires definitely warmed up, you could definitely start to feel it get a little more pushy, but a combination, just the combination of the tires wearing down and then being that close to somebody the entire time, and with how aerotight these will get, it just builds up, and eventually you kind of can't get your good exit. You may be able to still have your good entry in mid corner, but the exit kind of starts to suffer.
Well, coming into this race, Tiernan did not drive the first Silver Crown event, and I'm not sure exactly how much you guys have raced against each other in general, but what was it like going after him and notice, he went in here, got the pole, wins this thing, what was it like racing against him? These cars allow for, a lot of space between drivers, the field spreads out, but sometimes it's just a new challenge facing a new driver up front.
Yeah, he drove a good race. He didn't put a foot wrong that entire time, so props to him. These cars can be a little bit challenged getting into the corner with kind of where the brake bias was set up, but he didn't really screw up anywhere, which is good. Just try to race him clean like I would race anybody else. I had one attempt at a pass, but I couldn't really stick it in there. A little bit's coming from maybe not knowing the guy as much, and also kind of just knowing the car. I have a decent amount of time racing this thing, and just knowing that I probably would have taken him out. Didn't really want to make that bad first impression with the guy racing for the lead and just taking him out on the first attempt on a pass.
Well, I think you spent enough laps around him tonight to get a feel for his pace, so I look forward to watching you two battle it out the rest of the season. But who would you like to thank for a solid second place run tonight?
I'd like to thank my team, Toll Down Force Racing, Black Box for sponsoring us, Pixel Dust for awesome paint, Lowell, the admins, everybody who runs the league. Thank you. This is a great place. I wish more people would make it to these races. The Silver Crowns are a great car. The Sprint car is a blast, and so is the dirt stuff. Thanks to everybody who shows up and races, and thank you guys for doing the broadcast and do a great job.
All right, thanks for talking to us, Justin. We'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.
That was Justin Morton, our second place finisher, and I believe DJ Clark, you've caught up with our third place finisher, Aiden Young.
I have indeed. Aiden Young, our big charger up through the race. Talk to me about your mentality coming into this. You had a little bit of a problem in qualifying. What was your goal coming into the main race here tonight?
And not to hit the wall and just do my best, because this ain't really my cup of tea for car, but we got it done.
You were able to get it done, and talk to me about all of the battles that you seem to have out on track. It looked like it was never ending for you. You always had somebody around you. How was that going for you out on track, and what was going through your mind?
Well, going through my mind was just trying to keep the car in one piece and just stay as smooth as I can and not really look in the mirror and just try to keep them behind me and just have fun.
Well, I would certainly hope that you were able to have a good time out there, but my question is for you, next time out we head to North Wilkesboro in the Sprinters. How do you think that's going to go?
That's going to be interesting because that place is really bumpy, and I don't know how the car is going to handle it.
Well, we wish you all the luck in the world there when we get there, but as for tonight, who makes this possible?
I just got to thank you guys broadcast, and obviously Gambler Motorsports, Cool Ray Cooling and Heating, Young Gun Creations, and obviously my family for letting me spend so much time doing this.
Always got to thank them for being able to do that. I feel you on that. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Aiden Young, your third place finisher here tonight. And that is unfortunately going to just about wrap us up for our broadcast here tonight. But on behalf of myself, Kenny Kibbe, as well as our director, Ryan Seneker, behind the scenes, it has been an absolute pleasure to bring you the racing action from Gateway Motorsports Park. You heard me mention it a little bit earlier. We head to North Wilkesboro in the Sprinters next week. You are not going to want to miss that. And the next race on the channel here will be as the BRL Super Late Model Series heads to the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. That is going to be tomorrow, Saturday, October 29th at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern. So do not want to miss that whatsoever. But once again, on behalf of myself and Kenny Kibbe, it's been an absolute pleasure to bring you the racing action here today. And until we see you on the track, thanks for watching.
Yeah.